Welcome, everybody. My name is Good Feeling Film, and this is the first episode of my new weekly podcast I'm going to be doing. So, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a while, and I'm finally doing the first episode. So, the way this podcast is going to work is I'm going to try to upload it every Sunday, and we're basically just going to talk movies. It's going to be like a live thing. I'm probably not going to try to edit it at at all, really. Um, so I'm probably gonna mess up a lot, but it's part of the routine. So the way I'm gonna break down this podcast is in three parts. So the first part is gonna be like an intro to the podcast. We're gonna talk about any random subject, anything really. The second part is always gonna be news. So the biggest news topics of the week in the world of movies, like casting rumors, release date rumors, directing rumors, anything like that. And at the end of that, I'm gonna recommend the check this out movie of the week for you guys. And then finally, the last act is gonna be either like a rant or an in-depth discussion about something that interests me, and that would be the podcast. So for the first podcast and the first part of the podcast, um, I've been making videos for a couple months now, but you guys probably really don't know that much about me as a movie fan. So, in the first part, I want to tell you guys what my favorite movies are, how I started doing YouTube, and what my inspiration was. So, I've been watching YouTube for the longest time. I used to be a really hardcore gamer back in the day, and I used to watch a bunch of gaming YouTubers. And then a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, is when I really started to love movies and film because, growing up as a kid, I watched a couple movies, but they never really stayed with me. Mainly because my parents aren't from here, so they never really had that, American mentality of taking your kids to the movies as like part of the culture. So a lot of the movies I saw back then that I've checked out again, I have a completely different way of looking at them. And starting YouTube and talking about movies, I really got inspiration when I started to really look at film differently and started watching movie YouTubers like Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns, and my main inspiration was the people over at Collider and the Schmoes because I love the way they interact and think they're hilarious. And I just love hearing them talk about movies, and it got me to think like I should do this too. I like doing it with my friends, and I just got on my computer and started doing it the easiest way possible. I don't have that much equipment or stuff, but I manage with what I have, and I just do it for fun. So that's really me and how I got started with YouTube. And as a movie fan, I haven't seen everything because I'm still pretty young, so I didn't grow up during the classics, during the 80s. So I still have a lot of things to watch that are older, but I'm definitely watching everything new that's coming out, or try to at least. Um, I haven't seen all the classics or anything like that, but I try. I try to watch as many movies as possible. So for the first part here, I'm just gonna run down some of my favorite movies, and I'm of that mentality that there's always movies coming out every month, every week, every day. There's new releases. So it's really hard to pick one specific favorite movie because there's so much good things that I haven't even watched. So I have like a list of like five of my favorite movies of all time. First off, the Star Wars series. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm excited for the new Force Awakens Blu-ray that's coming out. I'm definitely going to try to get that. I watched it 3 times in theaters, and I loved it. And I love all the original trilogies. The prequels are, what they are, but I still love Star Wars. Then we have Saving Private Ryan. I love that film, my favorite Spielberg film of all time. Then Shawshank is also another film that I love. Should have won the Oscar that year, but um, also, I love sci-fi and adventure and fantasy. The Lord of the Rings I love, Jurassic Park I love, and Alien and Predator are also movies that I really like. Like I said, my favorite genres are sci-fi slash fantasy, and then I like, pure dramas and war films. I also really like. I have like this little thing where I'm trying to watch as many war films as I can. And I don't know, I just love them. I don't particularly love war that in like real life, but I think war films are pretty special, depending on like the way people direct them and stuff. And then my favorite actors and actresses of all time. I'm not too familiar with like the classic actors, like John Wayne and stuff like that. Um, so most of my favorite actors are like more recent actors. So I have Michael Fassbender. I love Jake Gyllenhaal is also someone I really love, like recently because I think he's been picking really great roles. And then Harrison Ford and Tom Hanks, I love them. Han Solo, Indy, and then Tom Hanks, he does like great in almost everything he does. And then for actresses, it's kind of the same thing. Most of them are like new, but I do have Kate Blanchett, who's kind of a seasoned veteran. She's one of the greatest actors, probably like right there with Meryl Streep. And then my two other favorite ones are pretty new in Alicia Vikander and Brie Larson. They both just recently won their first Oscar last year, and I love them. I want to see everything they do from now on. They're great. So now let's talk about some of my least favorite things in the world of film. I have seen movies that I think are complete garbage, and some, for example, are, excuse me, um, Pan last year. I couldn't even get 30 minutes of it. I didn't even watch it in theaters. I saw it once it came out on like on DVD, and I couldn't even like get through 30 minutes of it. It was horrible. And then M Night Shyamalan isn't my favorite, so I have Avatar because that movie was total garbage, and I watched the cartoon as a kid, and that movie destroyed everything I knew about that show. And then After Earth also, like really bad, not good. But Will Smith seems like he's climbing back up the ladder. And then the Godzilla, not the recent Godzilla that came out a couple of years ago, but I think it was 1999 or 2000 Godzilla, that the American version that had Godzilla looking like an iguana. Yeah, that was horrible because Godzilla is like my favorite giant monster of all time, and I've seen like all the Japanese versions, and those are great. And I love the last one that came out. So that movie like also crushed my childhood, kind of. So that's why I don't like it at all. And then my least favorite genres. Now I don't have a least favorite genre per se because I watch everything, or like I'll watch everything. I try to keep a really open mind. But the things I watch the least are horror movies, just because I'm not a big fan of horror movies. I have seen a couple, and I do think some are pretty good, but I try to stay away from them as much as possible. And then you have romance, like pure romance movies, because sometimes I feel they're kind of cliched and cheesy, but I love romantic comedies though. They're probably like my guilty pleasure movies because I just like watching romantic comedies. And then we have my least favorite actors and actresses. I have a couple I thought of. For the actors, I have Jai Courtney and Hayden Christensen. Hayden because I don't think he's a great actor, and the same goes for Jai Courtney. I hope he's good in Suicide Squad, but so far he's hasn't been the best. And then for actresses, I have Megan Fox and Jennifer Lopez. Megan Fox, she's nice to look at, but I don't really think she's the strongest actress in the world. And the same goes for Jennifer Lopez. She should stick to singing, really, because I don't think any of her movies are that great, to be honest. And finally, I'm going to tell you guys my most anticipated movie of the year. Um, we just saw Deadpool earlier this year, and I loved it so much. One of the funniest, greatest superhero movies I've ever seen. And then recently we had Batman v Superman, which kind of let me down, but we'll talk about that later in the podcast. So still to come, we have movies like Civil War, X-Men, Doctor Strange, Suicide Squad. But mine, because as I said earlier, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, my most anticipated is Rogue One. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with like this new spin-off and going back in time before Episode 4. And the cast, I love the director. I love also, and I'm really excited to see how their first anthology movie goes. So yeah, that was kind of the first part of my podcast, and each week it's gonna change. I'm gonna find something to talk about. But for the first podcast, I thought it was pretty pretty smart to talk about me as a movie fan and to let you guys know what I'm into and stuff. So maybe that will give you a little bit better idea of how I rate my movies and such. So now we're going to hop into part 2 of the podcast, and this is all about the news. There's been a lot of news over the past couple of weeks. Everything recently has kind of been about Batman v Superman. So I'm not going to try to talk too much about that, but I am going to talk about some topics from this past week and a couple weeks ago because I want to talk about them with you guys. So first thing up on the list is the Civil War trailer. It came out a couple weeks ago now. So I've seen it easily about 20 times. I just like watching it. It's an epic trailer. I love it. And everything about this movie seems great so far. Everything that Marvel has done has got me excited for this movie. I love The Winter Soldier. Probably up there with top 3 Marvel movie of all time. And this movie looks great, like crazy good. I mean, when I first heard some things coming out of D23 from some people that went there, they weren't sure how the tone was going to be, but after watching this trailer, it's like balls to the wall. They're fighting for real. Like they're not holding back. This is legit. And like Black Panther looks sick. Ant-Man's new suit and the shot where he comes off of Hawkeye's arrow, that was amazing right out of the comics. And then we finally got to see Spider-Man. And me personally, I think the suit looks great. I love his voice was great. His eyes moving was great. And that also lends me to think that Tony had some part in building his suit. So it might not be the only suit we see in the movie, actually. And yeah, we saw Crossbones and how badass he is. He's actually like bringing the fight to Cap. We saw Scarlet Witch take down the Vision, which was another big elephant in the room. Like, oh, Thor isn't here and Hulk isn't here, so really whoever has the Vision has the most OP team. Apparently not, because Scarlet Witch is holding him down. And I also think that's kind of funny because in the comics, they're married, so it's kind of like she's holding him down. So I'm also really interested to see if they're gonna develop that relationship at all, because we kind of got hints of that in Age of Ultron, but not much more for after that. Um, we haven't seen Baron Zemo yet, and I'm excited to see how he's gonna play a role in this movie. Though Bucky, he's really the motivation for Cap, and then you also have the registration, but mainly Bucky because the government wants him, and he's like, nah, he's my friend, and that's pretty accurate to me from what we've seen throughout the movies, from the first Captain America to Winter Soldier to now. He wants to protect them, and I feel like that's a good motivation for him. And then we got Tony, who I love Tony Stark. I love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, but for this I'm on Team Cap, even though I love Black Panther, and I do think Spider-Man's on Iron Man's team. But Captain America, I'll still go Cap. I'm really excited for this movie. I'm ecstatic, actually, and I can't wait to see this movie. You guys gotta get here quicker. Alright, so that was my Civil War discussion. Now, the next topic we have is this new idea that's been surfacing lately, and that is an at-home movie box. I forgot what it's actually called, but let's just call it the at-home movie box for now. And this is an idea that was created by some guy who also helped reinvent music. I think that's what he did. I'm sorry, but yeah. So basically, this movie box, the point of it is it's gonna cost $150 to buy the box, and then with that box you can watch new releases at home instead of having to go to the theater. But each movie costs like $50 for like a 2-day rental. So lots of people have been talking about this. Even people in the industry have backed it, or some people have thought it's a horrible idea. Some people who have backed it, I think, are like JJ, Spielberg, and people who are against it are James Cameron and I'm blanking on his name. Damn, but I know James Cameron isn't for it at all. So to me, this is kind of dumb. Like, I don't think it's a smart idea. One, because I personally love going to the movie theater, and also it seems kind of expensive for me. But if you can afford it, I could see how it could work, and then you can invite friends over, charge them like a couple bucks, and then you could make money back, and then you could buy the next release and stuff like that. So I can see how it could work, and you also have to don't you don't have to deal with people you don't know making noises, kids, etc., etc. But for me, like, it still doesn't seem like a great idea. Me personally, you might have a different opinion. I just think it's gonna take away from the experience of going to the movies and such. And I want that to stay pure because I love the movies. I think I go pretty often, not as much as I want to, but I also think my parents are kind of like fed up with me going, but I still go anyway. So yeah, I don't really know how to feel about this yet. I'm not even sure if it's gonna completely work, but we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think about this new movie at home movie box and whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea. Next up is an interesting topic because it involves one of the most recent up and coming actresses that is on everybody's mind, and that is Daisy Ridley. And there's been rumors that she's going to be cast as Laura Croft in the Tomb Raider reboots. Now, she actually recently spoke about this and said it was true that she has been contacted to play this role. And for me, I'm kind of in the middle because one one half of me thinks this is a good idea because I think she needs work. I think she needs to be in more things because I loved her in The Force Awakens. She's gonna be a great actress. But also, the other part of me thinks this is a bad idea because the Tomb Raider series isn't the best. You know, video game movies aren't known to be the best, and also, plus, I think this is just like a similar role to Ray. But you know, she's a badass. She could play the badass really well. I just get worried that I don't want her. I don't want to see her be in crap. I want to see her in good movies. So this is kind of I don't know where I'm at about this. Um, if she takes the role, I'm happy for her. I want to see how it turns out. I'm definitely gonna go see it if she does take the role, but I'm still not completely sold on it. All right, next is really big news coming out of Disney slash Lucasfilm also, is that Indiana Jones 5 is coming out in 2019. They're gonna start filming. Harrison Ford's gonna be back, so we're gonna get a young Han Solo, but we're not sure if we're gonna get a young Indy yet because Han's coming back, Spielberg's coming back, and the guy who wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is coming back also. Um, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Indiana Jones 5. 4 wasn't the greatest thing. Some people really hate it. I don't like it. I don't think it's as good as the original 3 at all. But I trust Spielberg with everything I have. He's my favorite director of all time. I trust Harrison. The writer kind of scares me, but we'll have to wait and see. Now with Lucasfilm under Disney, and George Lucas really doesn't have a say in much. I love George with all my heart too. I thank him for everything he's done, but he kind of messed up Kingdom of the Crystal Skull for me, because he put his input, and then we had monkeys with hats or whatever. So with Indiana Jones 5, I hope they take the same route they did with Star Wars. Reinvigorate the series, use practical effects, use all this things that Disney has at their disposal to make a great film. And I'm going to be looking forward to it in 2019 when it comes out. I'm interested to see how they're going to play off of it, whether they're going to do a flashback. Maybe they could cast a young Han Solo if he's retelling a story of his early life or something like that, or passing the torch to another actor to play Indiana Jones. I'm just overall really excited to see this movie. All right, heading back to comics really quick. The Lobo movie got a writer. It's the same lady. I mean, the same person writing the Wonder Woman movie, I believe. and I'm still kind of worried about her. I don't even know if it's a lady, but I'm worried about the person writing Wonder Woman because I'm pretty sure they also wrote Vampire Hunter, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and that movie wasn't good at all. So they're writing the Lobo movie also. I'm interested to see how this goes because Lobo is an interesting character to me. He's like a space vigilante mercenary type dude. I mean, he looks awesome. He looks badass, and his characters also always interested me. I think it could work, if DC goes like a Guardians of the Galaxy type of vibe, since it is taking place in space, with a bunch of weird alien creatures. It could work, it could really work. Another thing to think about is whether it's gonna fit into the DCU or is it gonna be a standalone, comic book movie. I'd like to see it be a standalone comic book movie, to be honest, or unless they do it way down further down the line after Justice League and then integrate him with the DCU. But it's interesting. The writer still scares me. I'd have to see who they cast as Lobo and who directs it to really get a full picture of it. But for now, it could go either way. All right, heading back to Lucasfilm, we have, everyone knows the Han Solo spin-off movies coming out, and there's two pieces of news behind this. One is that there's the casting shortlist has come out, another shortlist. We had one a couple of months ago with like the names of Miles Teller, Ansel Elgort, Dave Franco on there. None of those names interest me at all. I love Miles Teller. I think Dave Franco's okay, and I hate Ansel Elgort. But I don't think none of them fit the role of Han Solo. But the new shortlist has the names of Alden Ehrenreich, Jack Rayner, and Taron Egerton. And Egerton's my pick for the young Han Solo. I love the kid. He was great in Kingsman, and I loved Eddie the Eagle a lot. He has charm. I think he could pull off Han Solo for sure. And this movie's coming out after Episode 8. I'm kind of worried, but I'm kind of not. The worried side of me is because I don't know if anyone could play Han Solo really. But then I got reassured because Phil and Miller are directing it. Disney did a great job with Episode 7. They seem like they know what they're doing. Their casting is always on point, whether it's for Marvel or for their own, animated or live action stuff. The casting is always great. So I trust them, And the other news was that, it's confirmed that Chewie is going to be in the young Han Solo. So a young Chewie, basically, I'm assuming, I hope, is going to be in the film. An origin story to how they met. This really interests me because we've never really gotten to know how Chewie and Han become friends, in the new canon. Because in Legends, there's a story to it all. He owes him a life debt, which is still canon. But in Legends, it's because of some weird thing. And it makes sense for that to be retconned. But in the new canon, I'm interested to see what type of story they pick. Because a life debt is pretty serious, It's not just like, I bought you a shake or something, I owe you a life debt. It's like, I saved your life, I owe you my life now. So I'm interested to see which route they go with developing this origin story. And I wonder if Chewie's going to be like kind of smaller or how they're going to play him. But I'm excited to see the young Han Solo. I think they already have a young Han Solo down. I just think they haven't revealed it to us yet. I'm pretty sure they're gonna do so before Rogue One comes out, and he might actually even be in Rogue One, but I'm not even totally sure about that. I'm excited, everything Star Wars I'm excited for. All right, moving along, we have a couple more stories. Next one is Sylvester Stallone might be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. There are some people who saw him on set or around like the set of Guardians of the Galaxy. And this is interesting to me because he just came off of Creed and he was Oscar nominated. I think he did a phenomenal job as Rocky in that movie. So I want to see him do more things. Like with that same caliber of acting, because he's not a bad actor at all, and I think Sylvester Stallone could really bring something new to like a comic book movie, because that's what everybody's talking about now is, are you going to be in a comic book movie? Is this big star going to head to the franchise level? People are talking about Leo doing that. People are talking about, other famous big actors like, I don't know, Daniel Day-Lewis. Are you ever going to be in a comic book movie? And Sylvester Stallone has never been in a comic book movie, I don't believe. Um, he's had a franchise, he's run a franchise, and I think this would be a good time to put him in already solid franchise. I'm sorry, like Guardians of the Galaxy, because the first one was great, one of my favorite Marvel films of all time, and I'm excited for the new one. They're bringing the band back, and you have Kurt Russell as Star-Lord's dad this time. So it'd be interesting to see if Stallone would play like the villain or what his role would be. So I'm down for this, like 100%. Put Stallone in Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, this next piece of news I'm not too sure on. I'd love to see it, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. And that is that Arnold Schwarzenegger was talking to Shane Black about Predator, the new Predator reboot. And apparently to him, he's going to be in the movie, I guess. But we don't really know because he says a bunch of stuff. I'm excited for this new Predator movie because Predator is one of my favorite franchises, one of my favorite monsters, aliens, whatever he is, or whatever you want to classify him as. But it's always been one of my favorites. The original, the last one I liked it kind of. I think Adrian Brody was pretty good. But this new reboot is gonna be awesome because Shane Black is great. Iron Man 3 isn't the worst, but then he's done Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which I haven't seen, but I've heard really great things from. And the new movie he's doing, Nice Guys, seems great. I love the trailers; it's hilarious, and he's gonna direct. He confirmed he's directing the new Predator and writing it, so I want to see this. Now, going back to Arnold, is Dutch gonna be back in this world of Predators? He's obviously not going to be the main character, but a cameo or something of that nature, to where he introduces new cast to the Predators or how to defeat them or something like that, would be very interesting, and I'd be down to see it, but I don't know how it's going to work, to be honest. All right. What is next? Next we have J.K. Simmons was cast as Commissioner Gordon for the Justice League. Now, this is great news for me because I love J.K. Simmons. He's one of my best favorite actors. I love his role in Whiplash. Is one of my favorites. He deserved that Oscar. He's been great in so many things, as J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man. Lots of people wanted him back for the new Spider-Man reboot, but now he's going over to DC as Commissioner Gordon, and I think this is a great move. Even because the Batman we have now is older and more, damaged and whatnot. This Commissioner Gordon should be older as well, and depending on what the Batman movie is gonna be, they could age him down, they can age him up to fit the role they want him to play. But I think J.K. Simmons is a phenomenal actor. This is a great casting. But now I'm not as excited about it or as confident about it because of what I think of Batman v Superman, but we're going to get into that later, I promise. But it's still great news, Always a good thing to add talented actors to a cast. So, yeah. Speaking about talented actors, we have a new poster for the movie The Founder starring Michael Keaton. And this movie is really cool because it's about the founder of McDonald's, one of the biggest franchises in the world, one of the one of the richest franchises in the world. And Michael Keaton's playing the guy who founded it all. So Michael Keaton's been picking the best roles ever. You know, the last 2 years, both the movies he was in won Best Picture. He's been kind of snubbed, but he's been in the good movies, and he's keep going. He's picking a biopic this time. I think it's a great choice. The guy who's directing it directed oh, I just saw it. I forgot. I'm sorry. But yeah, this movie seems great. I want to check it out. And the poster was really cool because it had Michael Keaton standing in the middle, and then it had like the McDonald's arches going over. And I think this movie has lots of potential, especially because Michael Keaton's in it and he's starring in the lead role. I'm excited for this movie. All right, next up is another casting kind of rumor, and that is Tom Hiddleston wants to be James Bond. So, we've James Bond has always been changing actors, and now we've kind of come to the end of Daniel Craig's career as James Bond, in my opinion. I love Casino Royale. Then Quantum of Solace came out, and it was kind of not great. And then Skyfall came out, and it was great. And then Spectre came out last year, and it wasn't that great. And at that point, you saw Daniel Craig. He was tired. He wasn't in it 100%, and he wants to move on, I think. And we have to change. We have to pick a new Bond. Who's it going to be? People have been throwing out names. Tom Hardy, Idris Elba. But no one really thought about Tom Hiddleston, so he made it his personal goal to be like, I want to be James Bond. And I never really thought about it myself. But this could work, I could see Tom Hiddleston. He's suave, he's charming, the girls love him. But at the same time, he doesn't have that physical representation that like a Tom Hardy or Idris Elba has. But I think he can still make it work. So I'm interested to see, him just saying I want to play James Bond isn't going to guarantee anything. But I want to see a new James Bond. My pick is still Idris Elba, but Tom Hiddleston wouldn't be a bad choice whatsoever. All right. And next up, we have J.J. Abrams coming out and saying he wants to make a Portal and Half-Life movie. J.J. Abrams is now one of the big directors in Hollywood. Just came off the success of Star Wars, made millions and $2 billion of dollars. And JJ did a phenomenal job with the movie. He's done a bunch of other stuff in the past, and now he wants to take on these two properties. Now, concerning thing is they're both video games. Portal and Half-Life. I've never really played them that much because Portal's like a strategy puzzle type of game, and Half-Life's kind of the same thing, and I'm not really into that. But it can make pretty interesting things. And the interesting thing about the Portal movie is that for the recent movie 10 Cloverfield Lane, he produced it, right? But the director of that, Trachtenberg, I think the reason he got the job was because he made a short movie based on the Portal game. So JJ probably saw that and saw this guy had potential, and now maybe he's interested in the director of the Portal. So that kind of intrigued me, thinking about it that way. I go ahead, JJ, make these. I'm in for it. I'm down. I trust them, even though they're video game movies. But there has to come a time where video game movies get off the ground, the bottom pile of being garbage, and make it to the top. Make some box office, get the critics behind them. This year we have two. We have Warcraft, which I'm excited about, and we have Assassin's Creed, which I'm also excited about. One of the two has to be good. Both of them should be good because of who's behind them. And I think video game movies, it's going to come, their time is coming up. All right. So yeah, that's the end of the news for this week. But before we go on to the last segment, let me talk to you guys about the Check This Out movie of the week. And the movie I picked was Locke. Now, this movie is a small indie movie. The main star is Tom Hardy. And the interesting thing about this movie is that it takes place all in a car. Everything in this movie is shot in a car, in a moving car. Tom Hardy's driving it, and it's a dramatic film with him facing different situations while driving this car. It's phenomenal. His performance is great. Everything's in this car, and that's what really, you know, interested me. I was like, how is this possible? The direction must have been crazy. The only like the first couple like 5 minutes are him outside, but then he gets in that car, and the rest of the movie is him driving. It's pretty short. It's like an hour and 30 minutes, I think, but it's crazy to think how they shot all of this in this car and make a interesting, compelling movie. And it's great. The story is great. You guys should check this out. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix, but find it, watch it. It'll blow your mind, really. All right. So now we're at the last part of the podcast. And this week, one of the biggest movies, one of the most anticipated movies came out, and that was Batman v Superman. I already put up my review on it, non-spoiler version, on my channel, so check that out. I'll link it down in the description below. But now we're going to talk about Batman v Superman in spoiler fashion. I'm going to break it down, tell you guys what I thought about it in depth. So here we go. Warning, again, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. Give you a couple of seconds. And now. Alright, so Batman v Superman, like I said in my original review, I thought it was good. I didn't love it like I wanted to, but it wasn't trash like all the critics are saying on Rotten Tomatoes, in my opinion. It was just a middle of the road, really. Zack Snyder isn't the guy for me personally to continue this franchise, but this movie was bold. It had lots of balls. They went for it, but they just failed in the editing room, really, because this movie was all over the place. The beginning, I was in, like I said in my original review. You see Ben Affleck, you see his origin story in the credits, like the Incredible Hulk, and it worked perfectly. And then you saw how it tied into Man of Steel with the destruction. But then after that, it just went all over the place. Again, Ben Affleck as Batman was my favorite part about this movie. He was great. After seeing this, I'm excited to see on a standalone Ben Affleck run Batman movie. Let's see. Where to go next? Lex Luthor. Okay, I didn't like him. He was annoying. All his little like quips and quirks and like jumpy was annoying to me. So let's talk about the biggest spoiler. I think is Superman dies. Right at the end, he defeats Doomsday, but sacrifices himself to save everybody. I thought it was a great move. We've never seen the death of Superman in film version, and we finally saw it, kind of, because at the end, the little dirt moves, whatever. He's not dead. Obviously, he's not dead. Everybody who has a common sense knows he's not dead because he's the leader of the Justice League. People in my theater, well, I also don't blame them because they might not be huge comic book fans. They just know these two characters, but they probably don't know what's coming down the road. All the foreshadowing to Darkseid, Lex Luthor going crazy, TikTok, TikTok. Darkseid's coming in Justice League. We know, well, from the movie and being a comic book fan, I know that. I also know that Superman is the leader of the Justice League. So he's not dead. The Justice League isn't anything without Superman. So I heard people in my theater like, "Oh, is he dead?" They're like all sad, and I'm like, obviously he's not dead. Come on. Talking about the Justice League, we saw their cameos and stuff, and to me, they were cool. I love seeing the future. The Flash one was great, and the Aquaman was also great. Jason Momoa looks so great as Aquaman. The Cyborg one was kind of good. I got excited in the theater in the moment, but looking back, I could see why it's kind of cheesy, kind of okay. But the way they introduced them was lazy. An email, like a bloody email. That's the only thing the writers could come up with. Plus, they all had the little logos. That's also very convenient. In the watching the movie, I didn't really think about it that much. But after I saw some reviewers and they pointed it out, I was like, holy crap, that's like true. They took I just found that funny. So yeah, Wonder Woman was great. She came in at the last minute, saved the day in the fight, saved Batman's ass. She was great. I loved her fighting scenes. But okay, so this movie's called Batman v Superman, right? I want to see a fight between Batman and Superman. and the way they fight isn't the best for me, in my opinion. Um, I thought they were gonna fight early, like way earlier in the movie, and then they were gonna have another fight at the end and resolve and team up and fight Doomsday, obviously, because it was spoiled for us in the trailer. But no, like they had one fight towards the end of the movie, and like Superman didn't even want to fight Batman. Like that wasn't he didn't want to do that. He was like, "Yo, let me talk," and Batman was like, "Nah, boy." But Superman, like he was forced to, and that's what kind of disappointed me also because I wanted it to be more like a Daredevil situation. And if you guys haven't seen Daredevil, he fights Punisher, right? But it's because they have difference of thought, of philosophy. Daredevil doesn't like killing people. Punisher kills everyone. So they fight, you know. Daredevil wants to stop Punisher. In this movie, Superman has to fight Batman because Lex Luthor kidnapped his mom and was like, fight Batman and kill him if not your mom dies. Batman was always going to fight Superman because he didn't like what he was doing. He's a god. He was destroying the world. So Batman was like, I'm going to stop this guy before it's too late. But in Superman's mind, he's like, I'm not doing anything wrong, Bruce. Let me talk to you. But like I wanted Superman to be like, this Bat Vigilante is scaring people in Gotham. He's killing people. And yes, Batman was killing people in the movie, which I had no problem with. I thought it was fine. But I wanted that to be the reason why they fought. Not because of some stupid way, like kidnapping of his mom. And then also at the end, when they became friends, it was all so fast. Like, Bruce had him down with the kryptonite spear, and he was like, I'm gonna kill you. And then Superman was like, Martha. And awesome coincidence that both of their mother's names are Martha. And then Bruce was like, why'd you say that name? And then Lois Lane comes out of nowhere and it's like, that's his mom's name. And then he's like, she's captured, save her. And he's like, okay, I'll save her. And then when he does save her, he's like, I'm a friend of your son's. Like, how are they friends? They were just about to kill each other. And now he's saying they're friends. And that kind of also threw me off. I was like, what? So, you know, it's this movie had so much potential, really. Um, all the dream sequences for Batman were also great. The Dark Side one was great, and then after that we had the Flash one. I've only seen the movie one time, and when I first saw that, I was so confused. I was like, "Who the hell is that?" But then I realized it was Flash later on, and it was the Flash, the not Flashpoint, but he came back and in time, and was telling Bruce about Lois something. And I thought that was pretty cool because we're gonna see Flash do that eventually. Um, Talking about Lois, I thought she was kind of weak in this movie. At the beginning, she was like, a human, but then later on, she was just like a device for Superman because she was a damsel in distress. She wasn't a strong character at all, I don't think. You know, she kept falling. Superman kept saving her. She started drowning. Superman saved her. Superman started drowning. She had to save him. It was kind of like back and forth, like repetitive, annoying stuff. And then, like, their whole relationship was like, eh. So this movie had so much potential. I wanted it to be great. It just let me down. But there are still a lot of awesome things. The Doomsday fight was great. The Batman and Superman fight was great until the end. Um, the Batman origin, everything Batman was great. Alfred was great. I didn't mind Batman killing people, but Jesse Eisenberg wasn't a great casting for me. I didn't like his type of Lex Luthor, and I know he's not the actual Lex Luthor. He's his son or whatever, but still, he was annoying as hell. Um, I just wanted, more. I wanted more story, more reasoning, more motivations for each character, except Batman, because Batman's motivation was clear and his path was set and solid. But everyone else was all over the place. It wasn't like I wasn't grasping everything emotionally, and I should have been really. And again, I think that comes down to Zack Snyder. Um, I think he's okay. Man of Steel, I liked a lot more, but I think it was because he was more focused on Superman and his story. And this, I think it was a big task. It was hard, but I think you need someone else to move this franchise. I'm not sure if he's gonna still direct Justice League Part 1, but if he does, and that turns out to be kind of okay still and not, or even bad, he's got to go. He's got to go. As Justice League is gonna look great, like all of his movies, but who knows if the story is gonna be there. If anything, I was talking to a friend of mine on Twitter, and we had a little discussion about it because he wanted to love the movie, and he's just thought something about Zack Snyder's direction wasn't right. And I told him, "Look, man, I don't think he's right for this franchise, for this universe. He's got to go." And then he brought up the point that what if he becomes like a Kevin Feige guy because he has his vision for this universe. Zack Snyder has it all planned out, but he just needs someone to execute it properly. So if he becomes like a Kevin Feige type of guy, and DC Warner Brothers gets someone else in place to direct the films, that could work for me. That could work for me. Also, the writing, Ben Affleck brought in Chris Terrio to write, to touch up or like finish the script for Batman v Superman, and I think he was kind of rushed. Plus, butting heads with Zack Snyder kind of because he has his vision and he has his vision, and they don't agree on some stuff. It could have made for a mess, and it was noticeable in the movie. So I think with Chris Terrio starting from scratch with Justice League, I think it has more potential to be a lot smoother. And I was surprised with all the reviews saying that the writing was bad because going into Batman v Superman, I wasn't concerned about the writing because Chris Terrio is an Academy Award winning writer. So I was like, okay, we're set there. The only thing I'm really worried about is the directing, and it still was worrying to me after seeing it. I'm just interested to see all the other standalone movies. We got Wonder Woman coming up, and that, like, Batman v Superman set up the Justice League in a way where I'm excited to see the future. I don't think this movie killed it. It's gonna make bank. Just the critics aren't behind it. A lot of the audience is for it, though. I've seen lots of positive praise for the movie from fans. It's just the critics don't like it. Was sloppy and it's noticeable. Patty Jenkins is directing Wonder Woman. Let's see how she does with this film. Gal Gadot was a real concern of mine going into Batman v Superman because she's not the greatest actress. She hasn't done the most things, so we don't really know how she's going to turn out. She had a small role in this film, had about a couple of lines. She delivered them pretty good in my opinion, and her fighting, her action was great. I want to see Wonder Woman a lot now. I want to see the standalone Ben Affleck Batman movie. And I want to see all the other Justice League characters' movies. I'm just really concerned about Justice League and the future of DC because I want these movies to be great. I don't want them to be middle of the road, like I said in my non-spoiler review. Like, okay, they shouldn't be okay. They should be at Marvel level of greatness to be on. Like, I want them there. And all the DC fans always say we have the best villains, and I do think they have the best villains too, because looking at Marvel, the biggest complaint people have is that their villains are kind of not the greatest. They're like one and done, except for like Loki and like Thanos so far. So with DC, we have Lex Luthor, who is a great comic book villain. You have Doomsday, who's this crazy, psychotic Kryptonian creature who brings the battle to Superman. And they disappointed me. Lex Luthor was annoying, and then Doomsday, the birth, we knew he was coming, but in the trailer, everyone was like, this guy looks like a Ninja Turtle, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, guys, don't worry. He's going to grow. He's going to get all the spikes. And he didn't. The way he looks in the trailer is the final way he looks in the movie, like after he dies. And when he came out of like the womb of that little like pulsating ship, like that had Siri in it, he looked even worse. And then he like evolved like by 2%, and he got like 2 spikes, and that's it. And then there is times where like these energy pulses came out of him, and it looked like he was go. And in the movie theater, I was like, come on, keep going, keep growing. But they didn't. I don't know why they didn't make him keep growing. He would have looked way cooler. But at that point, the movie was just all over the place. I was kind of just like in the action, like, this looks awesome. And it did look awesome. I just wanted more. Um, so that's all I say. I stick with my rating of 7.6. So much potential. I want these to be great. It just wasn't. It wasn't great. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of winded right now because I let everything out and I'm not used to talking this much. But, I'm a movie fan. I get passionate sometimes, especially with these big movies that have at of this scale. I want them all to be great. Um, so yeah, that was my spoiler discussion breakdown of Batman v Superman. And that will do it for my first podcast, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to be doing these weekly on Sundays mainly. I'm excited to do this. I might get some special guests, depending. So I had a lot of fun doing this, talking to you guys about me as a movie fan, talking about the news, to check this out, and my Batman v Superman spoiler talk. Um, if you guys have any suggestions of what I should talk about or things you guys want me to talk about, leave it in the description below. But yeah, guys, I'm also gonna have a channel update coming later talking about this and something else I'm gonna be changing/doing in the future. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like. It always helps. I'm a pretty small channel, and I know that. And I just like talking about movies, and that's really why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it to get views or subscribers, but it helps because I want my opinion to be out there and have discussions with you guys because that's really what movies are about. In the case of Batman v Superman, lots of people don't like it, lots of people love it. People are in the middle, and it's great to have talks about it. And that's what I like doing. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, again, subscribe and like, and I'll see you guys next time.